What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got for you a massive gaming PC sitting here on my table, and if you aren't familiar with this PC and you haven't seen it in my background at this point, then well, this is my gaming PC slash content creation PC. Basically, it's the mothership of PC Tech Hustle in its root. But the main reason we're talking about it today is getting a little dirty, and it's starting to run a little warm, and there's some things I suspect why it's running a little warm, but ultimately I want to clean it up because I obviously like to show off a very nice overkill PC, and showing off dust just accumulating is not really all that great. So today, what we're going to do is discuss some of the tools and products that I use to clean out my gaming PCs or any other electronic component for that matter to get it nice and refreshed and squeaky clean and looking its best once again. Let's go. Alrighty, so we'll get into the products as they use them, and I'll explain to you why I use them and how I'm using them, but I just want to give you guys a quick tour of my PC on why I'm deciding to do this, because it might have not been very clearly evident on how dirty it actually is. But just to show you here, it's basically an open concept here where it's pulling in untreated air, which is by my choice. There are filters you can put on. In this case is the Fantix. Now I'm trying to remember, Etho 2, one of the gigantic ones that I had plans to do some water cooling support on, and I still want to do that, just haven't got around to doing it. But basically, I like performance in its most raw format possible, so I figured I could always just dust things off and let the fans run without any filters, etc., etc. So anyway, so what that does is it actually obviously will have a bigger chance of pulling in more dust, and probably hard to see here, but we've definitely got some fine layers of dust accumulating along the flat surfaces of the PC, and really can see it here up on the graphics card. I'll run my finger along it here, but a fair amount of dust on the graphics card. Kind of hard to see it there on my finger, but you can see where I drug my finger along and removed a lot of dust, and it's just kind of starting to accumulate everywhere. As we can see here on the glass, we've got a fair amount of dust just accumulating and really starting to look pretty nasty. So it's been about 2 years, like I said, and I want to get this nice and cleaned up. I bought some new fans though, because I really like, as you can tell, these Lian Li fans, but they came out with a new version of the fans that look even better than these. So I will save myself a little bit of cleaning effort by just removing the fans. I'll probably go over how I generally clean fans in at least one example, but I'm not going to clean all. What I got, 4 here, 3 there, 1 back, and 3 down here, so a ton of them. That would be a lot of effort of cleaning. But another thing I wanted to address here, if we look at my stat screen real quick, is my AIO, which right up here is basically a first, maybe a second generation like RGB AIO from Corsair. I did put a custom faceplate on here from V1 Tech, but as you notice, actually the RGB is not in sync with everything else, and for some reason I lost connectivity via USB, one of these down here, obviously, that connects to the AIO to actually control the RGB. What that also does is control the pump speed. So the pump speed I have over here on my stat screen, I typically have running at full speed, which is like 2,800 RPMs. And I've lost connectivity to the AIO. I don't know if it's just because it's old. It's like literally like 4 to 5 years old at this time. But basically, I'm just calling it as I'm not really going to troubleshoot it really any further and replace it with a much more modern AIO, because it is the time and I kind of want to get more modern before I do any kind of extra real big major like water cooling work with this PC. I am going to shut it down and give you a quick look at just how bad the actual dust has accumulated. We'll look inside that radiator up here, because there's, I bet, going to be a ton. It'll definitely be clearly visible on the fan blades, etc. So come along with me. We'll get this sucker nice and refreshed and looking beautiful, more beautiful once again. Now that the PC is off, you can really see that dust accumulation. It's pretty bad. Like, it's everywhere. So all lit up and nice, and especially if it's dark, yeah, sure, it's not a problem, but it's everywhere. There's why I ran my finger earlier. But yeah, and check out the fan blades. They're looking pretty gnarly. Very dusty, very dirty. So let's get to cleaning. Alrighty, so I skipped ahead just a hair bit because I was struggling to get my side panel off. I didn't realize how tight these hinges are. I might grease them up just a little bit so that way when I do this again, or just have to open the PC, I can actually get the glass panel off. But as you can see, through my shirt here. I have lots of dust accumulated just from literally putting my shirt or body up against the glass as I was trying to shimmy it off. So yeah, this definitely is dusty as I see it now. But basically, first thing you want to do before you work on any PC, whether it be dusting or whatever, just a fair cautionary thing to do is obviously unplug from your power supply. And what I typically do is I just hit the power button a few times. Sometimes actually you might notice after you pull the power plug from the actual power supply and do this with no power plugged in, there will be a bit of a surge of power still left within the capacitors of all the power delivery components, like your motherboard, GPU, all that. So you might see some lights flicker just for ever so a second, which is normal. But the main thing you're doing here is you're draining all the residual power that's left over in the system. I usually, like I said, hit it about 5 times, as you can hear me clicking it, and then hold it like once or twice down. You should be good and drained on your capacitors to start to actually get to work. Just like I said, a precautionary thing to do when you're just getting your hands in on the motherboard, etc., etc. Just takes away that extra, risk of shorting out anything in general. But what I'm going to focus on doing is removing not everything completely, because I don't want to do a full rebuild of this PC. I just want to remove some major components, mainly the GPU, because I know there's going to be some dust accumulated, and I've already seen it in the fans and the heatsink. So I want to just get that off the motherboard. Plus it makes accessibility of the motherboard a little bit easier. I'm going to be replacing some things here, so you guys will see that in just a moment. And with the Lee & Lee fans that I have, for my sake, is real easy. They're all the interlocking, interconnecting fans, so I should be able to remove them as one unit. So this, although my PC is slightly more complex than most, I should have a pretty easy time getting things out of it. Without further ado, I will get some of these things out of this PC here real quick, and then we'll jump back to maybe just showing off just how dirty some of these components are, because I'm seeing at least one of my dust filters that I'm still running, the underside dust filter, which is what I wanted to keep just because it being the underside, is caked. So we'll see that in here in just a moment. But anyway, let's tear this apart and get it nice and cleaned up. Alrighty, here, moment of truth. Let's see how nasty this AIO is after 2 years of use and no cleaning. Okay, I think I've seen worse, but it's definitely good and caked on with dust for sure. Get a close up here. Oh yeah, it's pretty furry. Anyway, moving on, let's get a few more major components out of the way in the case and get to dusting everything out. All right, so now that we've got all the major kind of components out of the way, I'll unplug this 24-pin cable here, because we actually are replacing these, by the way. We'll get to that when we get to it, but I'm gonna wipe up the thermal paste that's accumulated. I'm gonna take this little screw thing off for where the AIO used to be. Gonna get this cleaned up just so that, we're gonna have a fresh application of thermal paste. This is now going on, 2 years application. It's actually still pretty good. There isn't really anything wrong with it, but the new AIO is going to come with pre-applied thermal paste, so we'll just kind of give that a wipe down with a paper towel real fast. This is fine to use paper towels. Some people might gripe at that, say, oh, you might get like fibers in your system, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, okay, but I think I have plenty of things floating around in my system right now being dust of that nature, so we're going to give it a good blot. Should be fine. Get it nice and cleaned up with some isopropyl alcohol after we've cleaned off or blown out everything. So let's get out to my garage now, because I've already got plenty enough dust floating around in my studio and I don't need any more of that. Also, my suggestion here is just remove any panels that you've got still in the system, just to open it up wide open. That way it allows the dust to escape and you get it all out. So I'm gonna get some panels off, get the rest of the fans off, and out in my garage we go. Wow. Dirty. Quite dirty. Actually, that side's probably worse looking. Sheesh. Yeah. That is good and dirty. And stuff floating around everywhere. So pretty nasty. About as bad as the AL. Yep. Nasty. Alrighty guys, so before we get into dusting things off in my garage, I actually made a pit stop over here at my kitchen sink with the dust filter that I have here. And what I'm doing here actually is with these types of dust filters, the fine mesh material, I believe that's like a metal mesh. I'm not entirely sure exactly the material, but a real easy way to clean this out is just run it over some water and then just basically stick it in your dish drainer and then you're good to go. So I'm gonna do that. Alrighty, it's looking pretty nice and clean. That's perfect, and I've always found this is really useful because it's very fine mesh and the dust just pushes right through with the water. And then we'll just stick it over here in my dish drainer. And there we go. On to more dusting. Alrighty, so on with the main dusting show. We're out in my garage. Don't mind the clutter that you might see in the background. We're doing some spring cleaning and getting rid of some kids' clothes and stuff like that. What we got here is an electric duster that I've reviewed on the channel before. It's pretty simple to use, so I would suggest getting yourself one of these. They're probably the safest and most cost-effective way of doing dusting. The big thing here is it's got a built-in filter, which this is actually the spare filter, but a filter that's inside that is basically filtrating the air that's coming in, so that way you're not blasting particulates onto your sensitive components on your computer, as well as it's filtrating any kind of moisture that might be getting in through the system here. And obviously we don't want to get moisture on the components. Typically a lot of these come with a lot of the same stuff. They kind of look like this, most of them from what I've seen. I'm going to be putting a brush extension on it, so that way as I'm blowing air onto the motherboard, I can kind of pick up some particulate of dust and kind of brush it away and blow it away at the same time to get it nice and clean. We've got a lot of dust to get rid of, so I might be swapping out some attachments here, but let's get into that and start dusting. Oh yeah, and it's got a cool little light on it too. All right, so one little tip here for you guys as well, since we were talking about water earlier, grommets like this tend to hold on to dust just because of the rubber material that, as you can see, it's kind of a little dirty looking. Best way to clean these up to make them look tip-top shape is just run them through some water as well and let them dry out completely. So I'm gonna take off all the grommets too to do that and get them nice and dandy looking. All right, all those off. We'll get those run through some water, but for now, we basically got it really well dusted off. There's still some dust here and there. I might get underneath the screen. What I don't want to do is drag this brush. It's not super soft, but I don't want to drag the brush across this screen. I'll just take a microfiber cloth and wipe across it, so that way we don't scratch up that screen that I've worked so hard to mount in there and make it look nice. Additionally, we've got some panels to dust off, which really is going to be the same type of format, but for my graphics card, we definitely got some dust accumulating on there. It's not too bad. I'm just going to blast it out and call it a day. I'm not going to disassemble the graphics card or anything like that, so we'll get that all nice and cleaned up real fast. That was a heck of a lot more dust than I thought was actually in this thing. I don't know if you guys saw the plumes come out, but look, it does a pretty good job. I mean, this isn't obviously like 100% perfect, but all the surface dust is gone. That brush definitely helps agitate everything on the surface and blow it away. Very nice. I really like this type of duster, and it's very safe. And honestly, I think I'm done dusting out the GPU. It's looking pretty darn good. So I think what I'll do here is I'll switch my attachment here. I've got, like I said, the brush attachment on. I'm gonna switch over to a more high-powered blower. So it's got a very narrow tip here. It's kind of hard to see. There we go. But what I'll do is I'm gonna put this on the back of the blower, and that way it gives a little more fine-tuned air to go more direct at displacing any kind of just leftover dust that's hanging out. All right, here's a free opportunity to roast my cable management, although a lot of stuff has already been unplugged, but that's kind of the perk of this type of case with panels like this that hide the cables. But don't forget to dust out your backside. I have a little bit left of dust that's just kind of hanging out. Main thing is I want to knock out some of the dust that might have accumulated in the power supply, but I'm just going to blast some air into it. And one key thing to do here is make sure you don't overspin these fans. So I just take something like this, a pencil here, and blow it out. That way we don't overspin the fans and we get a lot of the dust out. So just a quick little tip there for you. Alrighty, you guys, and if you've noticed the entire time I've kept the CPU in socket, there's no real reason to remove that when doing cleaning. In fact, it's probably the safest approach to make sure no dust gets inside the socket. You don't accidentally drop your CPU and bend some pins or whatever. So I always tend to leave the CPU in socket. Like I said, there's no real reason to remove it. But another quick tip for you. So we've got the PC pretty much dusted out, and here's my microfiber. I'm gonna wipe down my stat screen here, so it should be all nice and clean there. Just getting the surface dust off of it. I'm not really going to apply any type of cleaner to that. I don't have any smudges on it or anything like that, so we're just gonna leave that as is. But something I like to use on just like panel cleaning, which is this stuff right here. This is from Kroger. So I think it's something that's sold in most all grocery stores, if not a lot of them. But I know they're sold in Kroger because that's where I get mine from. It's just a multi-purpose cleaner. I like the scent, which is lavender. I think they have other scents, but it smells good for a little bit. But the main thing is it's a multi-purpose, non-abrasive cleaner. So I usually just spray it onto a microfiber like this, get it just kind of damp, and then just go in here and wipe down the chassis, like surface panels. So we're not touching any type of component because it is a liquid that has probably some type of particulates in it that we don't want to cause a potential short with. We're just using this to clean up the surface area of the PC. But yeah, basically just going in here and finding all the flat panel surface areas that are going to be safe to wipe down because there is some leftover like dust residue that is present. But if you guys are looking to clean it out without having to get into too much serious detail, then this is pretty nice for just giving it a quick wipe down. Now, you can go the extra mile, and I've seen people like Greg Salazar and Tech Yes City like actually taking all the components out and just hosing the chassis down. I have done that before. Obviously, that's a heck of a lot more work, but you're free to do that. But the thing you want to be careful with that is you have the system completely dry before you turn it on and put it back together. So that's the main difference here. So this is just a quick and dirty wipe down. The system's already looking so much better and ready for reassembly. And the good thing is I'm leaving a lot of the components still in there. That way it will take me no time at all to get things back together. Smelling clean, looking clean, time for some new parts. So like I said, we needed a new AIO. My 4 to 5 year old AIO, probably actually almost 6 years old, it's done. I haven't had a new cooler on it since then, and actually that AIO has lasted 3 PC builds now, so this being the 3rd one. It's done well. It's time for it to be on its way out. So brand new Corsair iQ H150 Elite LCD XT. That's a mouthful, but basically it's the top of the line cooler from Corsair, I believe, or one of their top of the line coolers. The main thing is it has the new LCD screen, which I thought was really cool. Ever since the launch of that product, I want to do like a PC Tech Hustle logo on it or something like that, or we'll see what we want to do. But yeah, I think that's going to be really cool. Fresh new radiator, so we should be pretty nice and cool, and hopefully get back some of those cooler temperatures that I was previously running. And then we've got some fans. A lot of fans. Can't even see me now. A lot of fans. The Lee & Lee fans. So as you noticed previously, I had the Lee & Lee SL120 fans. These are the new infinity fans that have the infinity mirror effect on the side and actually on the fan hub. Complete overkill. I'm a sucker for RGB parts and kind of cool things like this. I have nothing but great success with Lee & Lee fans. I never had to mess with those fans ever in my system. So 2 years of zero maintenance other than me just playing around with colors. Can't really say the same for other fans I've used like Thermaltake. So I'd have to say Lee & Lee software, top notch. I went with them again and I can't wait to see what these fans look like. But lastly, as you guys might have noticed, I also had some cable extensions, also by Lee & Lee. So if I'm on the subject, I might as well go ahead and do it, right? So we've got some new strimmer cables. They're V2 cables. This is supposed to have a lot more LED control and LEDs per actual strimmer or cable. So I figured, what the heck, you know, obviously I spent stupid amounts of money on things that did not need to be spent. Like I said, I'm a sucker for stuff like this, and I rarely ever spend money on my PC. It's been sitting as it is for 2 years, and with the main purpose of it being a powerful PC to be able to run my channel, to be able to do a lot of video encoding and editing and all that stuff and game on the side. So I'm spoiling myself maybe here to a little early Christmas present, but I got to get this stuff in. I cannot wait to see what it looks like, and it's going to be a lot of work. So I think let's just do one of those cuts where I, you know, snap to the finished product. Woo-wee! She is looking beautiful. Beautiful. Now, that was clearly a lot of work, and I'm now on a new day with a new shirt and all that. Yeah, the management of the fans as far as the cables go was quite a nightmare, and I had to basically recable manage my entire PC. So I saved you guys all that hassle, and we are now at the final result. So the PC is now looking beautiful. You could eat off any layer of this PC at this point. It is spick and span clean. Brand new fresh fans, new strimmer cables, all that. I'm definitely in love with the new revised version of the Lee & Lee fans. The infinity mirror effect is super awesome. These LEDs on the strimmers, as I can see in my camera viewfinder, is pretty darn bright. And this is actually, I've toned them down 50%. So they are extremely bright, very awesome, but also very bright. So keep that in mind. And lastly, the AIO, which might be a little hard for you guys to see here. I'll spin it here. Basically, like I said, I wanted to make use of the AIO, the new Corsair AIO, one, because my radiator is well on its way out. It's starting to run warm. I can clearly see that this one's performing better. Idle temps are lower. Load temps are much lower. Definitely overall just a better cooler than the previous one. And a really cool, neat effect, obviously, being the logo for my channel on the pump top. I thought that was an added extra little bonus. I mean, you can customize it to whatever you want it to be. I just chose to do that. So for last cleaning steps that I have left to do on this PC, obviously we don't have the glass on, the side glass panel on just yet. And I usually clean that in a particular way, so I'll show you that real quick. So let me go grab my glass panel and I'll show you exactly what I do with that and what products I use. So very quickly, and this is also an extremely easy step, is cleaning the side glass panel. Usually, if there isn't too much dust, I'll just go straight into spraying it down and that be it. So we do have some surface dust I'm just wiping off here with my microfiber towel. This is now what I consider kind of my dirty microfiber towel, which I'll get into what I'm talking about there here in just a second, but I'll turn that over just a sec. And what I like to use is this glass cleaner spray. Again, this is another product I get from my local grocery store or Kroger, but basically it's what I like about it is, you know, it advertises as streak free, and I think it does a pretty good job at that, but I like it because it's like a foam spray. So just kind of very gently spray the glass panel down, and with the clean microfiber side of the towel, just wipe down the glass. It's as simple as that. It's just like clean the window, really. What that does is basically pull off all the extra amount of gunk that was there. And typically what I like to do here next is get another clean towel, or just flip the towel over to a clean side. But I have this other more softer plush style microfiber. It's not required, it's just something I like to do. But basically I'm like buffing the glass, making sure that there is no streaks left behind. We are streak free 100% here. And kind of like as if you were to kind of buff the swirls out, or the leftover residue of like a wax on a car, just making sure it's looking crystal clear 100%. I'm not worried too much about the outside edges that are painted, more or less just focusing on the glass areas here. And that is looking very nicely clean. So we've got the inside part clean, which is the important part here. And I'll get into why that's the important part here in just 2 seconds after we get this glass panel back on. All right, so on goes the glass panel. I'm just gonna pick it up. Try not to touch the inside part glass that I just nicely got cleaned up. So just grabbing the panel by the edges. And all glass panels kind of go on different depending on what PC case you have, but mine particularly is hinged with these prongs here on this Fantex case. So I'm just going to line those up and drop it on in. All right, now it should nicely close, which it did. So a good close there. And then what I'm going to do is take that microfiber that I used previously as the dirty side microfiber, spray on to the microfiber, not onto the glass this time, just because we don't want to get anything inside the PC, and wipe it down again just in the same exact way that you did it previously. So now we're cleaning the outside. The inside we're 100% clean on. Now we're just getting the outside, which really wasn't all that dirty. All right, that's looking pretty good. And then with the clean towel, again, I can see a little bit of the streaks with the light directly on the glass, but what I'm doing here is I'm buffing those off with this softer, cleaner towel, and it's going to look basically perfect. And there we go. We are now 100% clean. So guys, I hope that gives you guys some tips and tricks on how you clean your PCs. Basically, if it's on a not extreme dirty scenario, this is typically what I do. And in summary, basically what that entails is blow it out with a brush attachment that can allow you to remove the surface dust, wipe it down with the cleaners I described earlier. And then depending on how far you have to go, like I didn't have to clean fan blades here, which I'll cut over to some B-roll here on where I actually did. Even though I did replace these as brand new, I still cleaned off those fans just to make sure they're nice and beautiful looking, because I will resell them. They're still really good condition fans, but if you have to go to that length, basically all I use is typically Q-tips to get inside the fine nooks and crannies of the fans, and then use isopropyl alcohol to wipe it down with that on the tip of the Q-tip, plus get a microfiber towel to just wipe it on down. That all depends on how dirty your fans really are. You might just need to only dust them off with air and be good to go, but I went the extra mile since I'd be reselling these to get them extra clean. But anywho, as I said, I hope you guys find this informative in a way of how to clean your PC. Obviously, we've got mine beautifully refreshed for, I guess, the next couple years until I'll have to do this again. Thanks for tuning into this one though. I appreciate your time, and I will catch you in the next one.